The Jimmy Barone Show is brought to you by Goods and Chattels brand. We make your favorite stuff.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Jimmy Barone Show. I'm your host, Jimmy Barone, and for today's topic, we're going to have a head-to-head debate on media violence. It is my opinion that violent media causes violence is ridiculous and unfounded. I've been watching the great TV show 24 for years, and I still haven't killed anybody. My first guest is Dr. Steve Sandman, who holds a PhD in social psychology. Thank you for joining us today, Steve.
Thank you.
And my second guest today on the other half of the argument is Tom Jackson, attorney at law. He is currently involved in a lawsuit against Snowstorm Studios, a video game producer. Thanks for being here today, Tom.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'm glad to be here.
Tom, we're going to start with you. You're pretty well known for your crusade against violence in the media. Could you tell us how you got started?
Yes, actually, I got started back in the 70s when I read a research study on how pro-social behaviors could be instilled in children through watching programs such as Mr. Rogers. And I noticed that researchers were willing to accept this hypothesis, but they weren't really willing to accept the idea that violent media could be instilled in children. And that's really what got me started on my crusade. By the time a child is 18 years of age in the United States, they're subjected to 200,000 violent images, and that's television alone, not to mention all the violence that comes through other media such as music, which I've been involved in several lawsuits.
Tom, how does this connect with your current lawsuit against Snowstorm?
Well, the incident in Podunk University where 33 students were shot, that involved a student who had trained himself on a game known as Corona 3, which was produced by Snowstorm. Now, I represent the families of the victims in that shooting, and we hold Snowstorm responsible for producing that murder simulator that this student trained himself on.
Mr. PhD in psychology. Pretty impressive. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got there and how it pertains to us in this topic tonight?
Well, social psychology is a scientific study of how people think about, influence, and relate to one another. Issues such as violence in the media have always been important to me, and as a social psychologist, I get to deal with these issues scientifically. Principles used in my field, such as the availability heuristic, tell us that an entity as ubiquitous as the media will always be subject to misattribution. It is paramount that scientists be wary of making illusory correlations when reviewing the studies on media violence. Many people in my field feel that violent media could serve as attitude inoculation against aggression. Adequate research is still not available to draw conclusions.
That's ridiculous. Numerous prestigious organizations have already found causation. The American Academy of Pediatrics, NIM, the APA, the AMA, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry.
Okay, this is great, but we gotta tone it down. Hey, Tom. Okay. Now, back to Steve. You're a psychologist and a member of the APA. Are these statements true, and what do you have to say about this?
It is true that the APA and many other organizations have issued these statements. However, many in our field are urging them not to make proclamations when causation simply has not been found. With regard to the Podunk University incident Tom is involved with, it is more than unlikely that there was just one cause to his behavior. Media violence is only one risk factor for aggression. It is not the biggest, it is not the smallest. Uninvolved parents, antisocial friends, and psychiatric illnesses are much greater influences, just to name a few.
Now, just a minute. Statistics prove that video games have caused crime rates to rise.
Tom, the statistics actually show just the opposite.
What statistics are those, Steve? Yours or your friends at Snowstorm?
The Bureau of Justice Statistics, actually. Their data shows violent crimes have decreased from 1993 to 2008, from 49.1 persons per 1,000 to 19.3. This correlates with the explosion in popularity of video games. The Japanese have quite possibly the most violent media around, and their crime rates are 1/10 of ours. If anything, this data gives credit to the catharsis effect.
Catharsis? That's ridiculous. They're more like kilographic murder simulators. The APA has testified before Congress that 3,500 studies have been done that found causation.
No, Tom, your facts are wrong again. Only 200 studies have actually been done that have found connections, and within those studies, less than that actually did.
Okay, guys, but we're unfortunately out of time. Thank you for joining me. Join us tomorrow when we discuss the subject of legal marijuana.